Good evening. Ready to get started?
Yeah.
We're learning Maseches Nedarim. Have Samach test. Get out of the Daf by Surely. Say hi. Oh my gosh. I'm not editing this, by the way. We are on Samach test Amud Aleph, about 5 or 6 lines down. We're in the middle of a discussion about hafara, about undoing the neder of a nara me'urasa. This question came up yesterday. If only I would have read a couple of more lines, I would have known the answer, but I didn't. And we were asking the question, is there she'ela by the hafara of a father or of a baal in the case of this woman who made a neder? That is the Gemara's question as we open 5, 6 lines down. By Rava, ye she'ela behakim or ain she'ela behakim. Let's say, here's the flow of events. A woman makes a neder. The husband or the baal, they say they're making the neder. Yeah, supportive, very good job. Now, is there she'ela in that? Can they go to Bezdin and say, I know that I was making her neder, but I regret having done that, and I want to backtrack. Can I go to Bezdin and have them be matir the neder? And im tim solomar yesh she'ela b'hakim. And if
they
you
or she,
what
who gets the
Hakim?
to she'ela?
What?
The woman.
No, we're only talking about him, but the av or the baal, because it's b'hakim,
Yeah.
it's the hakama.
No. Or does it mean is there she'ela once there was hakim? Because
That is what we're saying. Is there she'ela?
She'ela is if you would have known, but that only applies.
That's a
to
Pesach. That's not a she'ela.
So what?
She'ela is when you go to Bezdin and try to be matir. A Pesach is when you say, if only you would have known X, therefore I would never have done the neder.
So after the vow is making, could the wife
Only through the husband. That's pasuk in Chumash. That's she has no control.
So it got your husband point today?
What?
Yesterday was fiance.
Oh, Michael. You're right. We're gonna call him the Baal for today because that's what the Gemara calls him. Really, the Gemara should have called him an Arus, but we discussed this yesterday. We did. So that's the question: is if the father or husband was making the neder of this woman, and then they regret having done that, can they do she'ela? And imtim solomar ye she'ela behakim. And if in fact she'ela works, so she makes the neder, and the husband, the Baal, the Baal was making the neder, can he go for she'ela? And if so, is the same true? Will we say ye she'ela behafer or ein she'ela behafer? Let's say she makes a neder, and he's mefer the neder, he undoes the neder. So then, what do we say? What if he then wants to go to Bezdin and say, I undid her neder, but I regret it? Does that work? So the Gemara just answers it plainly, but there is seemingly through the Rishonim's lens a little bit of lamdas here. Tashma, 6 lines from the bottom. Damar Rabbi Yochanan, nish'alen al hahakim. Yes, you can undo a support of the wife's neder. Ve'ein nish'alen al hahafer. However, if you, the Av or the Baal, undid the neder, you cannot do she'ela to go back to the regular. That's what the Gemara says. So some of the Meforshim point out that the reason why that's true is because when a husband is supporting a neder, it's like making a neder, and we have she'ela on the dar. But when you're undoing a neder, she makes a neder and you say no, so what she'ela is there? That isn't a neder. So that's how some of the Rishonim try to explain the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan. Asked and answered. So we do have she'ela when it comes to being making a neder, but we don't have she'ela when it comes to being mefer a neder. Next, Boy Rava. What if the Av or the Baal say Kayim lichi? He says twice in a row, I support this that you're doing. I'm being Makayim your neder, and he says the language twice. Are there implications of the fact that he said it twice? And then v'nishal al hakama rishona, and then he says he goes to Bezdin, and we just said a line ago he's allowed to get hafara on the hakamas neder. That was the first sheet in the Gemara. So he's nishal on the kama rishona, on the first support of her keeping that neder. Mahu, what's the din? Do we say that the second neder is still in place, or do we say that since they're really quotes kayim lichi, that it's just one? How do we look at it? And the Gemara says Tashma to Amar Rava. Nishal al harishona, if here's the flow of events, the wife makes a neder. The Av says, Kaim lichi, and then he does she'ela on the first Kaim lichi. The halacha is Amar Rava nishal al harishona shtiya chala alav. The double language is done. It's 2 different halachic issues. So even if you do akama on the first, you do a she'ela on the first one, the halacha is that the neder is still chal on The neder is still chal on her.
We stopped from making on the second one, right?
What?
Can also be mashal on the second one.
Seemingly.
Oh, whatever.
No, we're not. You're asking a new shaila. You're asking.
Going back to last night.
Yeah.
Right?
You're going back to the basics of the Mishnah, which is that we need both of them to do. We're not discussing that.
Right.
We're just no, because we spoke about last night that each person, it's either Megas Gaiz or Miklash Kodesh. But he was the one who said both of them. This isn't two different people talking. This is one man talking. That's one person. Yeah.
According to Rabbi Arshkel, it's either or. The father or a husband said.
100%. It could be either one of them, but it's not that one said one and one said the other.
Right.
That's for
But
that's
no, what I'm saying is we don't need to have both of them.
no,
according
just
to
one of
what
them.
this is.
And I've been flip-flopping in language here too, because it doesn't matter who's doing it. It's just whoever said it, it was only one person. Yeah. Third case. Now things get a little bit more rattling the bird cage a little bit. Says the Gemara, Boy Rabba, Kaim lichi umufar lichi. I support you and I am undoing your netter in the same breath. Velo seichul hakama, and that which I said, which I'm going to support you, doesn't apply el im kein chala hafara, which is impossible. It's impossible. He said, I support you and I don't support you, and my support of you doesn't start until my lack of support kicks in. So it's an impossible comment. Mahu. How do we look at his comment? She said a vow, and this was his response. He did two hafaras. He did two hakamas. Just a double lashon for one nether.
No, but it said, the article said before there was two consecutive oaths.
By him.
Two oaths, really?
Isn't that what Kaim means? Isn't that what was the case? Kaim lichi, Kaim lichi.
Praise him, even the Shal HaKam Rishon will be.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that's Rashi.
I thought he made two.
Maybe the Ron said.
Yeah, this is just the Baal or the Av or the Baal. Okay, so in this case, we have cryptic language because first he says Kaim lichi, 2 lines from the bottom. He says, I support your neder, and then Umufar lichi, and then he says, I'm undoing your neder. And that which I said that I'm supporting your neder, Lo seichel hakama, elim kein chala hafara. So it's you're chasing your own tail. It's an impossibility in the brain. So Mahu, let's ask the question a little bit differently. Which part of his language is binding and which part of his language is not binding? Mahu. We're just going to go until 3 lines before the bottom of the page. Not a long blot tonight. Let's go. Tashma, we can probably find an answer, says the Gemara. Miplukta de Reb Meir v'Reb Yossi. There is a case that is found in Maseches Tmura that is quite similar to our case. We know that Tmura is the changing over of status of an animal to a new status or to a new animal. And let's see what the Gemara says. That's not. Harezu, this animal is now being transferred as 2 things, Tmuras Ola and Tmuras Shlamim. That's what a person said. Now that's impossible. An Ola is fully consumed and a Shlamim is edible for people like us. So says the Gemara, how does the Tanakama in this Mishnah paskin? Harezu Tmuras Ola Divi Reb Meir. Reb Meir looks at the first thing that came out of his mouth. That was what set things in stone. You opened your mouth, Harezu Tmuras Ola. As far as I'm concerned, you could have garbled your words after that. It doesn't matter. You said something already. You said Harezu Tmuras Ola. Done. Done. That's easy peasy. Now, Reb Yossi Omer, this is great. If really your intention was to have a double status of Ola and Shlamim, but just technically, but you're human, you're not a Kodesh Baruch Hu, you can't say Ola and Shlamim at the same exact time. Therefore, Dvarav Kayamin. Therefore, they have both statuses. Now, it's only in Damim. Of course, you can't bring the animals. If you cash out, half is Ola, half is Damim. But you can't bring this animal as a korban. But the Gemara is just saying in the language of Rav Yossi, is it because your intention was to do both, but your mouth, we're humans, we don't have 2 mouths, so we therefore can only say 1 word at a time. Ola came out before Shlamim. Okay, but that was just a technical difficulty in expressing yourself. Lemaisa, the animal has both statuses. Let's go back to our case. What did we say? According to the approach of Reb Meir, first words that come out of your mouth, so then Kaim lichi. Done. Kaim lichi. Her neder is mukam. It's all good. According to Rabbi Yossi, who says that both languages count, well, the first one is supportive and the second one undoes. So the conclusion would therefore be undoes, because
Is the conclusion is both?
well, both means it's in sequence, because it is both, and he wanted them to be said at the same time. But Lamaisa, if it's both, it means that there's hafara, because he did the hakama and then he did the hafara. That's how the Ran explains this. The big Ran at the bottom here, although actually it's the whole page. It's one Ran basically. And the Ran says this in the middle of the widest lines there, right before the dot. Whatever, we can find it if you want, but it's here. Let's look at this. 6 lines down into the Ran, on the widest lines of the Ran, by the period there, Alma. It's 7 lines, 6 or 7 lines toward the end of the line, in the widest lines of the Ran on Samach Testament Beis. Alma, Plugtaihu, the Reb Meir v'Reb Yossi Talia b'motzi shnei shnemos mipiv. The real machlokas of Meir and Reb Yossi is when a person says 2 things at once. If we were to say that the second comment is chal after the first comment was chal, this was how the Gemara painted their machlokas. Umishum hachi, says the Ran, Amrinan del Reb Yossi vadai ifshit bayan dechi amar umufar lichi la basar hakama kamar el bevas achas hilkacha farachayla. It's a difficult line to understand a little bit. The last part of this Ran is difficult, but the Ran is saying that it is hafara. So that would be the machlokas in practice, is that according to Reb Meir, the first words were kaimi lichi, so the neder's chal, and the final understanding of the Ran and within Reb Yossi is that the hafara is chal. This is the machlokas between them. So let's go back in the Gemara, because the Gemara's assumption right now is that this is what the machlokas is hinged upon, this whether or not we can say 2 things at once. And the Gemara says it's really not true that this is a machlokas, that our case is subject to the machlokas of Rav Meir and Rav Yossi, because really Rav Meir would agree with Rav Yossi. Let's see why. 6 lines down. Ve'afilu in the Gemara now. Ve'afilu Rav Meir lo ka'amar. We should be adding in the word ella. Ve'afilu Rav Meir, who in our Mishnah would have said kaimi lichi, would have been the psak. Lo ka'amar ella de lo amar lo seichul zu el imkin chalazu. This was the last line of our Mishnah that we quoted on the bottom of Samach Testament Aleph, that really where he says this line, kaimi lichi and mufar lichi, and I only want the hafara to count if the right, that's this cryptic line. But Rav Meir only would have said what he said without that line. Aval hacha, in our case, at the brisa on the bottom, is there a brisa? It is no. It was a question of Rabbah. But in our case, hacha, in our case, the amar lo seichul hakama ela im ken chala hafara, Rav Meir nami moded hafara chala. So we thought that maybe the machlokes from Tamura with Rav Meir and Rav Yossi would carry back to our question of Rabbah. Turns out no. And we have klor, an answer that everyone agrees to, Rav Meir and Rav Yossi. We asked our question, if somebody says this cryptic language of kaimi lichi and mufar lichi, if you say that, so yes, it's all garbled, but halacha can't look at it and say, well, the Reisha and the Seifa don't agree, so your statement is worth 0. No, your statement is worth something. What is it worth? Is it worth hakama or is it worth hafara? And we would paskin, according to both Rav Meir and Rav Yossi, we would paskin according to both of them that it is hafara.
Is the Ela in King almost like a Tanai? Is that difference?
Oh, the additional line?
Yeah, that which we said, that the mayor would be Ela, that Ela in King Hala Hafara, so even Rav Meir would be Moda, meaning you could sort of make a korban into 2 things, even though you don't know what to do with it. No, the qualification here of the Gemara, when it says even Reb Meir would agree, is when the whole line is missing. The very last line on Samach Testament Aleph of Velo Seichul Hakama Ela Im Kein Chal Hafar, all of those words are missing. Meaning Reb Meir and Reb Yossi would have a machlokes if all the question was kaim lichi umufar lichi. Okay. Then Reb Meir would say the kaim lichi wins, and Reb Yossi would say the mufar lichi wins, because that's a person who's speaking in sequence. Right. But this guy who now garbles everything with this impossible condition, right? Of the Ela in Kain, it's a condition. That's why Reb Meir says it's not the Ela in Kain; it's the whole line. Below seichul hakama Ela in Kain chal hafara. If I say 2 things, line, it's not 2 lines.
Yeah, it's one long line,
It's
and
almost the same thing as saying.
yeah, but like the point is that you've created an impossible condition. That's pretty.
Why don't you say?
Because you said a sentence of kaim lichi mufar lichi.
But it's self-contradictory, it's an impossible statement.
First of all, the question is only going to be mayor, who said, yeah, that's very good.
Oh, you're funny. I was so excited I understood you, but I realized now that I did it. It was just a second later. It was a big letdown. Can you say that again? That what? No, I'm not shutting you down. I just want to.
The question that he's asking is, why don't we just go with that?
Yeah.
I wanted to say that Rabbi Yossi says, that he said the reason that it mayor is that, because people say things that they don't. And then the reason that Yossi is,
Oh.
don't see them.
Rav Yossi and Shas holds that way?
Saying,
Yeah, that the quote from the top of Samach Testament base is from Tmura. It's a Mishnah in Tmura.
We don't say their machlokas is totally in whether a person's.
Nope, the machlokas is totally and what happens when you have shtei shemos ba'achas. Yeah, correct.
It's according to the Karesh.
The Ran says a similar thing.
Yeah.
What?
There is such a machlokas.
So-
the idea of-
I'm not answering with the Mari Makom. I'm reacting to Stan's question. When the words come out of your mouth, are we able to just throw them out? It's hard.
Don't think so.
Obviously, you had an intention there, like unless you're a shota. But if you're a normal person, you're a pikeach, like that's.
But it can also be kind of that if you're saying both, you're not really, you don't mean a thing, right? Like it's almost like a joke what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Even the Ram, toe face what was your or not.
Right. It is my instinct. I just don't know why I'm right because I still there's an internal contradictions in the sentence, which means
it's gibberish.
it's gibberish. So why would it be that that's true? You gotta come on, man. Mishum hachim mefarshin abba ma'id ischazili. Look at the Ran on the bottom of Samach Testament Aleph, Dibra Maskal Boy Rabba. Chazina behach baya. We see in this question, b'may de pashtinan balakamoy, and other things that are later on, Zal, the other things that he explains later on. Mili de lo nihiri, words that are simply unclear. Umishum hachi mefarshin abba may de ischazili. Mishum hachi mefarshin abba. So he's looking at the words, he's agreeing that they're unclear, and he's saying, correct, they're unclear. What do I make of it? What do we do about it? Okay, that's what the guy, I don't know. I have no idea.
Thank you. Okay, it says Rabbi Yossi Amar, even talking this time is feel, so the note here says we ask him whether he's, like you're saying.
According to Rabbi Yossi, that's the Ram.
So that I get that, at least you ask him, and you ask him whether his contradiction statement reflects an original intent to reflect a dual substitution, or whether it reflects a change of everything. If you find the latter is true, then out of God, or if you find the other is true, then that makes sense. You ask him, without short of that.
But the Gemara seems to be grappling with his sentence irrelevant of his feelings because we're parsing. We're saying which one is Tofes Rishon.
These Rabbi Yossi saying, yes.
Right, that's in the opinion of the man.
Right?
Well,
But it seems like according to Rabbi
You're saying im lekach. Why? Because it says im lekach niskamin mitchila
Where you started reading
from the Ran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 lines above. Rabbi Yossi saw her. So you asked him, if he says, yeah, I meant both, then you're actually sorry. You have to put the animal out to graze because
Yeah, it's useless. Yeah.
Like you said, half the money was this, half.
Yeah.
That.
Mhm.
You do actually ask him.
Well, that was over there. That was over there in the case of Tmura.
Yeah, correct.
So if we carry back the machlokas, which is not simple that we carry back the machlokas, but if we carried back the machlokas, then we would have clarified. I don't know if that applies here. I don't know. Could be. Could be. One more question for the night. This one's less convoluted than the last one, but still convoluted. Yeah, it's only slightly less convoluted. It says the Gemara 6 lines from the bottom. Samach Tesamid Beis. Boy Rabba. Kayim umufar lichi. Get your stuff straight. Just like
You're causing so much.
he needs so much marriage therapy. It says the Gemara. He says in one breath, I fulfill and reject your neder. Says the Gemara, and that's bevas achas. But there's no lichi after Kayim like there was the first time. It's Kayim umufar lichi mahu. Toshma, says the Gemara, the Amar Rabba. Kol davar she'enu b'zeh achar zeh afilu bevas achas enu. These are not sequential comments because it didn't have the word lichi. They're not sequential. And kol davar she'enu b'zeh achar zeh, we don't have them zeh achar zeh. You're doing them bevas achas. It's a zero. Afilu bevas achas enu. It's nothing. The word lichi is what the word lichi inherently just means for you, but kaim lichi and then a mufar lichi. But if you say kaim umufar lichi, it's a zero. Doesn't count at all because neither of them live on an island on their own, at least for a moment in time. There is no sequential here. This is gobbledygook. This is a zero.
It's not kind and it's not moving. It's neither.
And that's both Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi both say the same thing.
The Gemara doesn't present a machlokes with Rabbi Yossi, but I want to see what text was just saying. What did you say, text? That was a good question.
Is it, and it's when you said it was zero,
Mm-hmm.
because you said both, so then what is it? Is the neder still there or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
It's only contract this, what you said before. You didn't say it because we asking it for this, that's it.
What does this ran mean? 8 lines from the bottom. Boy Rabba kaim umufar lichi bevas achas mahu. Klomar tekayim lechudei lav klumhu. The kaim lechudei lav klumhu. The word kaim by itself is worthless. The lichi hu shekolalan shtein keachas. And the word lichi is what binds them all together. So therefore, it's gobbledygook because you didn't separate them out. So that's the Gemara's question as we just learned it. Upashtinan la midirabba, 4 lines from the bottom. The kevan de lo mati lekadshinu b'zeh achar zeh afilu b'asachas leka lechadesh minayu safek kedushin klal hachanami leka lisfuke behakama uvehafara klal matzi basar hachi lahafer ulekiu mekidabai. It's a zero. It's a non-starter. You can then do hafara again if you want because you didn't do anything. This didn't count at all.
Right, so you're still in exactly the same place you were before.
Square one, yeah. Wishing you all a beautiful night.
The college between time and